Well, greetings and salutations, everyone. I do hope everyone is doing well, and welcome to, depending on wherever you may live or however you choose to read your clock, this early morning, middle of the night bonus upload. Before we jump into it, a couple quick links. As many of you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, channel membership, and the merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. Links to Patreon, PayPal, and channel membership is in the description below. Merch displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman Frightening Encounters, Volume 1 through 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeff Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support the channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe. It does not cost a cent. Click the like button, takes half a second. If you don't want to miss out on any of the informative uploads that I put out daily, click that bell icon, and folks, please leave a comment. Why? Well, because all these things really do help the channel to continue to grow and go. And yes, they definitely do matter. Now, everyone, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's jump in to this early morning, middle of the night bonus upload, shall we? Tonight's early morning or middle of the night bonus is going to be a little different. I kind of wanted to throw a whole bunch of stuff into one upload, so we're going to take a look at a couple different things, and I hope you guys enjoy it. So this is going to be a little different format than normal. Usually I have a set of encounters in front of me, or I already have some sort of planned kind of investigative whatever in front of me, like when I talk about missing people or bodies being recovered, this and that. Today is a little different. I started thinking a lot about a question I had asked about St. Christopher. But before we get into that, I want to share something with you. Now, I had gone to the Conjuring house just recently in Rhode Island and stayed the night there, did a overnight ghost hunt. And when we left, there was a small gift shop. I got a couple of t-shirts, a coffee mug, some dowsing rods, and I bought some of the well water in a glass vial. 2 glass vials full of well water. It's been about 2.5 weeks since I got home, and a lot of weird stuff had been happening at the house. Also, it felt like all of my energy was drained, and I couldn't get enough energy. But the second I left the house, like when I went to the location of my encounter, I had all the energy in the world. Not thinking about anything. I just, was like, well, maybe it's because I'm just overtired. I need to sleep more, this, and that. No. I started to think about, this is crazy because I'm going to get into the St. Christopher thing this way. But I started to think about things, and I started to think about how or where the haunting comes from in the Conjuring house. Now, one of the explanations or theories on where these hauntings stem from is that the house is built above an aquifer, and that this well is a portal. Well, the well has water in it. Where does water come from? Well, the aquifer. And if that well is a portal, and that water has something to do with that portal, that makes that water dangerous. Dummy me brings it home. And last night, yesterday, I put the 2 vials, I wrapped them up, and I put them in a location that houses my Ouija board and a couple other very strange things. It's a little blessed kind of area. The second I had them in that area, it was almost like a weight had been lifted. I'm still very tired, and I think that'll dissipate in a couple of days, but that's where my head keeps going. You know, my head just went, oh, well, if this house is haunted by this, you know, if one of these hauntings are occurring from this aquifer, too. And then I started to think about St. Christopher. And what if St. Christopher was a dogman who kind of turned his back on spirituality and turned his heart over to the Lord, Jesus Christ? So I started digging a little bit. And there's a website that I'm sure everybody who has looked into St. Christopher has read. But I used a VPN, and I went to a Russian website that talks about St. Christopher. And I found a lot of very interesting things, and I'm going to share that with you right now. Let's get into it. In the Roman Catholic Church, the feast of St. Christopher was suppressed entirely with Vatican II modernization, though he continues to be one of the most popular saints in Catholicism. His image adorning dashboards of cars all over the world. Also, police keep his pendant close to their heart as well. He's the patron saint of travel. I believe understanding St. Christopher and his iconography is of prime importance today. And hopefully it will become clear why as we travel through the Bible, tradition, and iconography to see if we can decipher this saint, who is such an affront to modern sensibilities. Scholars' studies of the origin of St. Christopher are available, but in these one must endure the usual ho-hum conclusions that Christian tradition develops, basically as a series of misunderstandings, confusions, and fantastical exaggerations. Modern scholars seem to believe that coherent meaning and analogy cannot exist without a kind of mechanical cause-effect historical development. When they see the overlays occurring in tradition between the term Cainite, son of Cain, or Canaanite, giants of Canaan, and Canaanite, dogmen, these scholars immediately enlighten us on the mistake transcriptions of those cave-dwelling Cro-Magnons of the Middle Ages, yet these same scholars remain blind to how profound and intuitive some of these relations can be. The use of dog-headed men in iconography is not limited to the icon of St. Christopher. They also appear most commonly in images of the Pentecost, primarily in Armenian manuscripts, but also in Western images. Dog-headed men are seen as the furthest race present at the Pentecost, because they are the furthest. In some Armenian images they appeared in the center of the door, or else they appear alone, representing a distilled image of the ultimate foreigner. There are some other images, for example, a well-known image where dog-headed men are represented as the barbarian enemies who threatened Christ. Sometimes they are seen as one of the races encountered in the mission of the apostles. Finally, dog-headed men appear in the story of Saint Mercurius, a warrior saint whose father was eaten by two dog-headed men, later converted by Saint Mercurius. These dog-headed men's savage nature could be unleashed by Saint Mercurius on the enemies of the Roman Empire in a way of analogues to how the Romans and the latter Christians used barbarians in their own wars. The most obvious examples of this is how the recent converted Germanic barbarians stopped the advance of Islam into Europe, or how the recent converted Scandinavian prince of Kiev provided the Empire of Constantinople with a personal guard. These iconographic examples show a dog-headed men as representing barbarian foreigners, those living on the edge of the world, the edge of humanity itself. They are cannibal, savage, hybrid creatures who latter will be conceived as descendants of Cain fallen to a monstrous state. The giant Canaanite of Catholic image, who has now often integrated Orthodox iconography, though less visually shocking for having lost his monstrous face, signifies the same reality as dog-headed men. The giants in the Bible and in Christian tradition are often also interpreted as descendants of Cain and monstrous cannibal barbarians. So as I'm reading more and more, there's tons of stuff, and I encourage everybody to just really, not just when you Google it, don't just go from the first page. Really Google and really dive deep. Like when I finally realized, I was sitting here and I'm like, wait, the pictures that I'm looking at right now, these are Orthodox. So that means they're Russian Orthodox or possibly Ethiopian Orthodox. So that's why I went to a VPN and looked up Russian information on St. Christopher. And of course you can translate it to English, which I encourage everyone to do. You know, I spent 4 hours doing this, and I've got I printed a lot of it out. I've probably got 60 pages of paperwork just to go through. Some say that because St. Christopher went through Canaan, a region in the Bible, that it was translated wrong. And there is a breed of canine, get it? Or dog, Canaan. So they think that possibly the misinterpretation put a dog head on the body of St. Christopher. And of course that was long ago. But anyway, I found this as well. There's so much more. St. Christopher is well known as the patron saint of travelers, and modern depictions of the saint often show him carrying the Christ child over a river. This is certainly a far cry from earlier icons that clearly show the famous saint with the head of a dog. Many ancient cultures had myths that featured dog-headed race of men. This myth even continues today in popular dogman stories. The ancient myth was oddly enough translated into early Christianity and was at first the central part of the story surrounding St. Christopher. Essentially, the idea was that the men who lost their way and turned to a life of sin and acted like animals. Sin was always associated with the base animal desires of flesh, and some stories went so far to say that some men literally became part animal. The Egyptians were already familiar with depictions of a half-jackal, half-human god Anubis, and so it naturally translated into Christian icons. One story relates how St. Christopher was one of these dog-headed men, and upon encountering the Christ child regained his human appearance. It is primarily symbolic, showing how Christopher left his animal-like ways and embraced the gospel, Early Christians, especially in Egypt, decided to depict Christopher with a dog head to reference this story of conversion. It's a fascinating story. But one image you probably won't find on your St. Christopher medal or holy card. Now, like I said, there's multiple websites with a lot of just different information and some of the same information just regurgitated. I did find at the beginning of all this, I had talked about a Saint Mercurius or Mercurius, and I found that story, or whatever you want to call it, about his father being eaten by dogmen. Check this out. So Saint Mercurius, martyr, name was interpreted as lover of the Father, also meaning servant of Jesus Christ. Holy man, was native to the city of Asclepius, which is also the city of his father and his grandfather, who were born therein. He was brought up in the city of Rome. Now the occupation of his father and grandfather and his kinsmen was that of hunters of wild beasts. One day they went out hunting according to their custom, and they found two men with faces of dogs, and they ate his grandfather. And they also wanted to eat his father, but the angel of the Lord prevented them in doing so. The angel said unto them, Touch him not, for from him shall go forth good fruit. Then the angel of the Lord surrounded them with fire, and being in tribulation, the two dog-headed men came to the father of Saint Mercurius, and they bowed low before him. Straightway God changed their savage nature into one of gentleness, and they became like sheep, and went with him to the city. After he had begotten the holy man, Mercurius, and he called his name Philopator, the dog faces lived with them for many days, and then they became Christians. Now the ancestors of the holy men had been in the days of the old pagans. When they received a gift of Christian baptism, they called the father of the holy man Noah, and his mother Tabit, and Mercurius. The dog faces, according to what the angel of the Lord said unto them when he appeared unto them, were in subjection to the holy man Mercurius and his father. When the king heard the story of the dog faces and how God had changed their savage natures, he ordered his soldiers to bring in the wild beasts. Before the king, the dog faces destroyed all the wild beasts, which the kingdom brought before them. Whilst the king saw this, he was afraid of them exceedingly, and he asked the father of Saint Mercurius to entreat God to remove them their savage nature, and make them to possess the nature of man. And he asked God, and God changed their nature, and they became like man. Then the king took the Holy Father Mercurius, and appointed him governor and captain of the army, and these dog faces were subject unto him, and all the people were afraid of them. After this, a certain wicked king rose up, and he wished to make war upon another king, and the king sent his soldiers to entice those dog faces, and to bring them to him. So the rest of the story is very, very long and very interesting. And I encourage you guys to check that out, to honestly do some digging and read it, because there's a lot more mention of dog faces. And that's kind of interesting how they're referred, dog faces. Not dog men, not werewolf, dog faces. And needless to say, I'm starting to kind of lean towards that. What if one of these dog faces were changed. His wicked nature, his wickedness was taken from him by the Lord Jesus Christ or by the Father. And that would be possibly St. Christopher. And then St. Christopher just dedicated his life to the Lord and to Christianity. It's not too far of a stretch if you think about it. And after just researching all afternoon, I mean, I'm telling you that water from the Conjuring house really did a number on me. I didn't drink it. It was just in the vials, but like it was just I don't even know if it was evil. I think it was just more power than I was ever used to having in the house. Like I've had some things. My grandfather was a Freemason, and I've met a couple of people who practiced in alchemy and stuff like that. And I've been around powerful kind of amulets and powerful magic and Native American magic and stuff like that. But this was just on a whole different level. So it's just drained me. But I really honestly think that possibly that St. Christopher was a dog face, and the Lord removed his savagery. And that's how and why we see this. I mean, prior to a certain time in creation or in our history, dog faces were talked about in India, Mesopotamia, Rome, wherever, Ethiopia. And now it's just a hush-hush subject. So, I don't know. But there's another interesting thing that I came across. Check this out. So in Revelations, I think it's 22:14, blessed are they that do his commandments, that they may have right to the tree of life, and may enter in through the gates into the city. For without are dogs, and sorcerers, and whoremongers, and murderers, and idolaters, and whoever loveth and maketh a lie. Beware of the dogs. It's very strange, isn't it? Beware of the dogs. Yet, we are taught to love all of the living creatures, yet in the Bible it says, beware of the dogs. Was he talking about the dog faces? All right, folks, a lot of very interesting information right there. Now let's jump into some encounters to end this night with. Today's first Dogman encounter is a subscriber encounter who is brand new to this channel as of last night. So let's welcome Lux. At the time of this encounter, I lived on the east side of Springfield, Ohio. It was about midnight when my mom and I decided to go sit on the porch and smoke a cigarette. It was late summer and still pretty warm outside. We were talking about how it was really quiet out tonight, which is not normal. Our porch faced an alley across the street, which went on for a full block with no lights down that way. As I extinguished the flame on my cigarette, we both heard the trash can fall over in the alley, which sounded pretty loud with how quiet it was. It caught our attention, so we looked down the alley. At first, we only saw eyes reflecting from the streetlight. I thought it was a dog until the thing started to stand up on its back legs. The neighbors, who live with the back of their house facing the alley, put a privacy fence that was 10 feet tall, and its head was over it looking at us. My mom said, "What is that?" I replied, "I don't know." She ran into the house and told me to come on. I was honestly in shock and grabbed my Taurus PT-111 out of the holster as I got up and came out onto the street, illuminated by the streetlight. It was tall and it had dark hair, a skinny frame, and long ears. I slowly backed into the house and shut off everything, locked all the doors and windows. We wouldn't look outside or talk for a while. We barely talked about it since. To this day, I won't walk after dark alone. I've dreamt about it, and it haunts me.
Hopefully, sharing my story will help me face my fear and maybe help someone else. But I now know the Dogman is real. Today's second encounter is a glitch in the Matrix. It's currently 1:10 in the morning on December 19th. On December 18th, earlier tonight at approximately 4:30 p.m., my boyfriend and I left for a 2-hour trip to go see a concert. We got there by 7 and left the venue at 9. We did not consume any alcohol or drugs at the show. We are both completely sober. We drove for about a half an hour before stopping at a rest stop with a restaurant inside for truckers. We stopped to get some food, and the service took a while. There were several older gentlemen sitting around the bar area in the restaurant and 2 female waitresses. We waited for about 30 minutes for our food. We didn't eat much. It was kind of gross. Paid and left around 10. My boyfriend checked his GPS before we left and looked at me and said, "We'll be home by 11:30. As he had texted friends and planned to be online and play some video games at midnight. We got in the car and drove, and after driving through an entire album and having several lengthy conversations, I checked the GPS and said, "Wow, we still have an hour left." It felt like the drive was taking forever. We drove for a while longer, and my boyfriend checked the GPS. 1 hour and 30 minutes left. The drive is a straight shot on the highway, extremely simple. I would have noticed if we went the wrong way, but somehow after driving for over an hour since our stop at that rest stop, we had an hour and a half left until we got home. We both immediately started to feel really freaked out and go over every possibility that could have happened. My boyfriend then said that he had looked at the miles remaining on the gas tank, and it said 312 earlier, but now reads 106, meaning we had driven an extra 100 miles. We were on the same highway we had been on our trip there. Somehow, an hour of our time is unaccounted for. I'm speculating that we had a loop on the highway. My boyfriend said he feels like he saw the same sign for the town many, many times. We both feel extremely shaken. Today's second Dogman encounter. When I was a kid, I lived on the edge of the city, and my backyard went to nothing but prairie and wilderness for 200 kilometers to the Rocky Mountains. Our fence had several boards broken out, and the deer would often just wander in. I'd been camping in the backyard, and the sun had just gone down. I was inside getting some food, and I saw light reflecting off eyes in the gap of the fence as I went out back. They appeared to be from something that was about 4 feet tall. As I got closer, I thought it was a giant coyote or a wolf, and ran to get my toddler little brother out of the tent. Upon escape, I threw the frying pan at the creature and scrambled across the yard and up the stairs to the deck. My sister claims it was a werewolf with backward knees that used one of its hands to swing under the top rail of the fence as it tried to enter. For years after, me and my friends would never go alone in dark places near the wilderness and joke that backward knees was there, all the while having never heard of the Dogman. Today's fourth and final encounter is a glitch in the Matrix encounter. So it was 3 years ago when I was playing tennis with my dad. My mom was also there helping us to pick the ball. She was on one side of the field. It was an open field surrounded by grass. When we were playing, I threw the ball too far away, like 4 meters away from the field. And I remember perfectly when I saw the ball hit the grass. My dad was supposed to walk those 4 meters and bring the ball. But I turned my head upwards and said, "Oh no," for 1 second, and when I turned it down again, my dad was in the position ready to throw the ball. I freaked out. It felt like I skipped time. I thought that I had lost consciousness for some seconds and there was something wrong with my brain, but I didn't say anything. We ended the game, went for a break to a place where my mom was, and she immediately tells me, I had like a short circuit, and she narrated me the same story, but from her point of view. She sees that I throw the ball away from the field. She blinks, and my dad already had the ball in his hands and ready to throw it. We asked my dad if he remembers what happened, but he didn't pay any attention nor cared about the story. He's like that. My mom and I tried to look for every possible explanation, but we couldn't find any. It still remains like a weird glitch story we share together, and we'll probably never know what happened.
And there you have it, folks. I do hope you all enjoyed this early morning, middle of the night bonus as much as I enjoyed sharing it with you. I'd like to thank you all for supporting this channel. After all, it is your support that keeps this channel growing and going, and what gives us all a place and a chance to share our experiences and theories judgment-free. Everyone has the respect that we all deserve, and that is because of all of you. Please, everyone, stay safe, happy, healthy, and ever vigilant, keeping an eye on our children, pets, family, and friends. These creatures are real, they are out there, and dangerous. Share this information with those you love and care about, and it may just help save their lives someday. Until next time, never stop asking questions, never stop searching for the truth, and God bless you all.